Welcome to Providing Choice, a Florida Charter School Alliance webcast series and speaker series. On today's episode, we get to talk about the updates to the Safe Schools law and mandates for K-12. With us, we have, well, I call them my two experts with the safety issues for schools. We have Willie Tagle and Orlando Muñoz. Would you please introduce yourselves? Willie, you want to go first?
Yes, thank you, Lynn, for having me right on this. But my name is William Tagle. I am the National Director for Safety Security for Academica. I've got 28 years of law enforcement where I retired as a deputy chief. And currently now I provide safety security, recommendations and assistance to all of our schools that we provide services to for Academica.
Orlando.
Good morning, Lynn and Willie, and thank you as well, Lynn, for having me on board today. My name is Orlando Muñoz. I am the company director for Earglobe Protective Services. We are a school protection company specializing in school guardians. My background is also in law enforcement. I have over 20 years of law enforcement experience and roughly in total about 26 years of combined law enforcement and security experience. My background is also in more of a tactical capacity. I'm a former SWAT operator, canine handler, and really take to heart with the service that we provide to all our schools, because I also am a father of small children.
Yeah.
And Lynn, it looks like when we retire from law enforcement, we grow beards and they become white. As you can see.
I like it. You're like, I like that. I feel very naked on this conversation. So, I mean, you all bring such value to the schools because administrators and teachers, they have to teach. They have to move that academic bar, but then they have these mandates to meet, and very serious state mandates that they can be penalized for. So Willie, we'll start with you. Just an overview of House Bill 1421, which passed in the 2022 legislative session. We had the Safe Schools bill, but this added some components. Do you want to?
Yeah, and I think I share with you, Lynn, some of the new things that just got approved by 1421, which has been a kickoff out of Bill 7026 and then Bill 7030. It's every year they adjust it and tweak it, and like you said from the beginning, it's sometimes it's mandates that I feel sorry for the smaller charters to how can they operate with these mandates? And so we try to help out as much as possible. But I did share some of the slides with some of the key things that the Bill 1421 has that I wanted to share with you and other charters.
Sure, let me share. You tell me.
All right, so these are the new ones that just got approved for as of July 1st. That go to the next slide and you'll see. And just a little brief history and background of it is that back in 2018, they created because of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas shooting, they created new mandates, and this is all stemmed from there. And out of the Rule 6A-1.0018, there are requirements and mandates that are being pushed down that all schools, all K-12 schools gotta abide by.
Yes.
And so some of the stuff that's on there from back in 2018, from Bill 7026, then they changed to 730. Now they tweaked the ones for safe school officers, for Fortify Florida, for the threat assessment teams, the emergency drills, the family reunification plan, the reporting of safe school officer and discipline and dismissal or discharge of firearm. These are the only ones that they tweaked out of Bill 1421. but I'm going to hit on a key ones that everyone needs to be aware of, because it's something that everybody's going to be looking for.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is the big one.
Yeah, well, I would say we've got like 3 of them that I would say, and this is one of them. This is that each safe school officer who is sworn law enforcement must complete a mental health crisis intervention training through curriculum developed by a national organization with expertise in mental health and crisis intervention. This is something that I've been working, at least in the local here in Miami-Dade, working with them. The majority of the officers is oh, I lost you there for a second. Okay. The majority of them are trained in mental health crisis intervention. Myself and 2 other individuals are certified for Academica for the CSTAG, which is a program that is put together through Dewey Cornell, who is a professor out of West Virginia University. And because of his model is being used here in the state of Florida, and also is going to be used throughout the nation, something that they're going to be using everywhere else. In fact, even I was recently in Texas, where they're interested in using this model as well. But one of the things is that they're advising that everybody that participates in your school as a safe school officer, they must be certified in the mental health crisis intervention. They also are saying that something new here that's going to hit on people like Mr. Muñoz's company, that each safe school officer who is not a sworn law enforcement officer must receive a training to improve the officer's knowledge and skills necessary to respond to and de-escalate incidents on school premises. Other words, this is the new mental health is the de-escalation training, and I think that's something that is going to be mandated now for all the guardians, or all the ones that are either employees that are listed as guardian. They all got to be trained on de-escalations. So this is another thing that's been added for these safe school officers.
And to go back to Orlando, your organization, you have already some of your team members have gone through this training, correct? Even
correct, yeah. We took a proactive approach to this. A lot of our team members were being asked to be on threat assessment teams at their schools. So, and it's only natural. They're for all intents and purposes, the first responder at that school. So it's good for them to be aware of what's happening at the school and what decisions are being made by administration in regards to any threats or any issues arising. So being that they cannot fill the role of law enforcement on the team, but they do serve that support on the team, we started to train them last year through CSTAG. So we have a large group of our guardians already trained through CSTAG and have been working on threat assessment teams already this school year.
I just want to make something very clear, though, Lynn, and to tell that when you're conducting, because you also have to have a monthly meeting for threat assessment, it has to be a certified law enforcement officer for right now. I believe things are going to change. Again, we're probably going to have another bill next year where things are probably going to change, and then they're going to include the non-certified, the people like Orlando's group, that they're going to be allowed to. But for right now, it's got to be only a certified law enforcement officer that's going to be allowed to be in those monthly meetings or participate in any CSTAG that does occur at your school.
Okay. All right. Okay. You want to just go quickly on this?
Yeah, 45 Florida. This is something where, and when 7026 first was created, they wanted an anonymous tip line, and 45 Florida is what came into that came in for this. And now what they change is because they've realized, and I get all these anonymous tips from all of our schools that we provide services for, that the majority of these tips are false information. So now what they want is, now they've created that it's against the law if what are the consequences of knowingly submitting a false information. So now that is a crime. If the individual provides a false information, a tip just to say whatever, it is a second-degree misdemeanor, I believe. But now what they want is the schools to advertise and saying that if simply this, that there are consequences in knowingly and submitting false information under 45 Florida.
Yeah, and this should actually go into all your parent handbook and the student contract.
Absolutely. I also advise them to put it on their website.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the majority of our websites do. That's one of the things that you also mandate, that you gotta be advertising 45 Florida on your website. So additionally to that, you need to also advertise that there are consequences for making any false information on 45 Florida.
Yep, that's important. Okay, so we got this one. Okay, so the threat assessment team, you touched on that already.
Yes, this is, now they're making it saying that each school threat assessment team must include a person with expertise in counseling, instruction, school administration, and law enforcement. And I guess they underline here that and all members of the team must be involved in threat assessment process and the final decision making. Okay. That is happening. I guess it's something that is not happening. And I guess they had to put it in writing. But everybody that is part of the threat assessment meeting, the certified law enforcement officer, the school administration, the school counselors, whoever is part of that team must be participating whenever there's a threat made at a school, that everybody should be there physically to do this threat assessment final decision.
Okay. Okay. And this goes back to what you were saying, even the smaller schools, you have to make sure if you have a guardian, you still have to call in law enforcement. Yeah. Correct.
And that's something that I've been trying to work with some of our schools that do have guardian, that I am reaching out to the local sheriff's office or to the local PD and advising them, this is what the new law states. We're going to need your assistance. And it's tough because they also lack resources. A lot of these law enforcement agencies don't have the manpower. We're taking somebody out of the street to come in for these meetings. So it's tough, but it's something that's being mandated. This is another issue that I'm running into, that it's tough for the larger counties in order for this to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got a lot of charter schools in South Florida.
Yes.
So I guess one recommendation is to make sure you make those connections with your local law enforcement office way before school starts, and make sure you identify, right? The school leader needs to identify who their contact person is there. You both were officers and you know better than me, but is that the best way? Just call and say.
Yeah, I mean, one of the plans that I'm doing is, which I believe is the next slide, if I'm not mistaken, it's reference drills.
Okay. Another
thing that they're requiring, and is that during these drills, that you must have a certified law enforcement officer that is in your jurisdiction be in your drills. So what I'm trying to create is, whenever we do have our monthly meetings for threat assessment, that you conduct your emergency drills at the same time, because again, it's a lack of resources that some of these police agencies have, that they can't be at every drill or at every threat assessment. So yes, you're right, Lynn. I think it's very important that you reach out to your local sheriffs or your local police department and advise them of this new mandate, of this new law, and hoping that there's a relationship that has been built between the school and the sheriffs or the local PD, that they can help you out here. This other one, it's as I was saying, the emergency drill. The law enforcement officer responsible for responding to each school in an event of an active assailant emergency, as determined necessary by the sheriff in coordination with the school district's safety specialists, must be physically present on campus and directly involved in the execution of active assailant emergency drills. School district must notify law enforcement officers at least 24 hours before conducting an active assailant emergency drill, at which such law enforcement officers are expected to attend. And simply what I just said is that whenever you got to conduct 2 drills a month. One is a fire drill, and the other one is the active assailant or barricaded subject or bomb threat, but the majority are all active assailant. What they're saying is they want physically a certified law enforcement officer to be at your drills.
It's going to be an interesting challenge for
It is.
Some communities. Okay. Okay. Family reunification. That's just a new requirement for the school.
Yes, a very new requirement. It's something that's been needed. I am a strong proponent on that. You know, you always got to have a plan. You know, you got to have a plan in case, God forbid, you ever have anything that, you know, that goes on. You want to have a plan of where can you take those kids? Where can you have parents had that reunification for these kids? So yeah, you got to have a plan. So now is set into law. You have to either adopt the one that your school district has, or you could create your own. Mm-hmm. Each school district, school board, and charter school governing board must adopt, in coordination with the local law enforcement agency and local government, a family reunification plan to reunite students and employees with their families in the event that the school is closed or unexpectedly evacuated due to natural or man-made disaster. This reunification plan must be reviewed annually and updated as applicable. Simply is you must have a plan, bottom line.
Right, and lots of schools had them already. Maybe
absolutely.
So many details, but yes, absolutely.
And last one is something that I would probably is for the safe school officers. It's something that I would hope that people like Mr. Muñoz, who's been greatly appreciated and very professional, and not because he's here, but we have a great working relationship, and his company has been able to provide it. And this is just saying that whenever there is any type of discipline or dismissal or any accidental discharge of firearm, that this must be reported up the chain, meaning up to the school safety specialist, to the FLDOE. So now it's putting it in writing that everybody's got to be notified something is happening. And I'm hoping that if ever there is any type of discipline or dismissal, that the working relationship between myself and Mr. Muñoz, like a company that we're utilizing, as well as other ones, that we had that open lines of communication, that they say, hey, we had this issue, so we got to make sure that the proper notifications are made. Now it is law. You got to make those notifications.
And it's built into the fiber of the schools, because we do that with our educators or anyone who works within a campus. So it just makes sense. It's in writing, but I think everyone should. This sort of
I believe. No, Lynn, I believe it was happening.
Yes.
I don't think there's no one school that would want to be put in that position, that they're, you know, that they hear something happen, a discipline or something, and it's been, you know, brushed aside. I believe that it's been happening, but I guess this is more that it's in writing now. So now you have to do it, you know.
Okay.
And it just keeps on talking about the same thing.
This is a big one. So here's
and I left here my contact information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you both have been so instrumental in helping schools meet this mandate, because we have seen schools get in trouble. And I know I've called Mr. Muñoz several times, like, that school, their officer didn't show up. Like you said, you know, sometimes they're called to an emergency in a city or a county. Orlando, do you want to talk about your relationships with schools? Because your team has a unique relationship. You're part of the fiber of that school community. And that's something that I think all schools should adopt.
I agree, Lynn. We obviously fulfill that state mandate, but we do want to just put a body at a school. We really want our guardians to become part of the school's culture and ingrain themselves into the community there. Our guardians really, they're our employees, but they're really part of the school staff, and they're seen daily by the students, the parents, and the staff, and really they become a valuable asset to the team. We really want our guardians to be that friendly face in the morning at carpool when everyone's arriving and visitors coming on scene, greeting the children along with the staff. You know, during the day, we provide presence throughout the campus. We really want that omnipresence throughout the day, we want our guardians to be active and coordinate with the school's administration, as to what's happening at any given day, whether it be visitors coming on site, any special events that may be occurring. We just don't want somebody sitting outside in their car. Mm-hmm. A lot of our personnel are part of law enforcement, the prior military. They have that public servant mentality that flows into the company and into how they provide services at their schools. Some of our guardians have even take time to volunteer on their own time at the schools. I mean, we've even had guardians DJ dances for the kids, coach on teams. We had one last year took it upon himself to be a sponsor for a mentoring program for parents and children. And he would hold the meetings once a month before school started in the school's cafeteria. And I was able to visit that school a few times during those meetings, and it was filled. Fathers with their children, father figures with their children. It was really a mentoring program for fathers and their children to create open dialogue in public and bring them closer as a unit. So we're always looking for ways to really ingrain ourselves into the school's fiber.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And speaking of the guardians, there is training. People don't just become a guardian, but there is extensive training. I think everybody knows that already, but
definitely. I mean, it's not an easy process.
No,
it's not an easy process to become a guardian. They do have to pass the psychological, just like a police officer does. There's a background obviously involved. There's extensive training. Just because you get into the training doesn't mean you're going to pass. They're held at a higher standard than the average police officer is as far as your firearms proficiency. So it's not an easy program to graduate from.
Okay. And then Willie, I believe you've also been working with the Florida Department of Ed, providing some input to their Safe Schools office.
Yes.
That's important because you all are implementing these things, but you're taking feedback.
Absolutely. One of the things I will tell you that working with the Safe Schools FLDOE, when it was first implemented, there was never a person that was speaking for charters, to say the least. And now they have opened their doors. I do have to admit, they have been very cooperative, very sharing of information. They've been very good. And in fact, they always offer for me to participate in their yearly meeting with the school safety specialists from the 67 counties, where I've expressed our issues. And when I say I'm talking about all charters, because I see it from the different. Because I wish there was one way that the 67 counties and districts were all running the same way. They're not. It's different. So what may work in Upper Florida, it's not working in South Florida, and that was always been my issue. So participating and hearing from my input, like for instance, it's funny how Mr. Muñoz was talking about his guys and gals that do stay at our school. This morning I was in a meeting. And they mentioned that the biggest issue that they have is when the officers have to leave because of an emergency to some another place. Where a guardian, he or she is going to stay there. They're not going to be going somewhere else. So God knows that's happened to quite a few charters, that the officer has left the scene because there's an emergency, there's a shooting, there's a homicide. God knows, critical incident, and they leave the school open for 2 to 3 hours. Well, the district, depending on where you're at, they don't care. They're saying we're going to attempt to close you down because you were not in compliance. You didn't have a safe school officers. Yeah. Where at least with the guardian, their roles and their responsibilities is very clearly. Another issue that I run into with some of the police departments that I've had to set up meetings with, that the officers just show up and just stay inside the car. And for 8 hours a day, they just stay in the car. And something that I had to speak to to some chiefs of police and say, hey, we have to create some sort of roles and responsibility of what is it that they have to do. It's not only stay in the car, it's engage with the kids, create this relationship. And it's a tough thing. And that's why working with the Guardian program, working with people like Mr. Muñoz's company, it works well because they're part of the school. They're greeted with open arms, and vice versa. You know, these guardians, as Mr. Muñoz is saying, they're DJing, they're helping out. So yes, I will tell you that going back to your up in FLDOE, Safe Schools office, they have been listening. They know some of the issues that we've been running into, and they're working with us. They are listening to us. But you know, these are new mandates now that are coming. You know, sometimes I wonder where are they coming from? You know, that how come they're not getting input from us? You know, but
I'm glad you're changing that, because from the beginning, you and I talked about that when the law first was implemented, and thank goodness, yeah, Ms. Muñoz's company, Eagle Security, has filled in the gap, because we did have schools where you can't afford or you can't access local law enforcement to be there present. So I thank you both for that. So I know we talked about so many things today, but what tip do you have for administrators walking into this new school year when it comes to on-campus security? Orlando, do you want to take it first?
Well, you know, if you're going to go obviously the Guardian route, one thing I would make sure that whoever you're going to deal with, that you make sure that they're certified, that they're going to put a certified guardian in your school, that they're properly licensed and insured, that they're going to give you that support, right? We guarantee coverage. So schools that contract with us, we maintain backfill and floaters in the event that our guardian has to call out or is sick or whatever, or unforeseen emergency. We have someone in place to guarantee coverage. So those are things that obviously schools want to be cognizant of, because like you said, you know, it is a state mandate, and you are opening up yourself for liability if you do not have that coverage in place.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good. It's a great point. And Willie, I know you
yeah,
have
I mean,
a book of best practices and tips, but anyway.
yeah, I mean, the thing is this, you know, I would want that at least the schools that we provide services is have the administrator just be the administrator of the school. You know, the last thing I want them is to be worrying about school safety issues that they're not being mandated. So that's where I come into play. I try to make sure that everybody, as much as I can, that they have that check off, that they already are in compliance. Because the last thing I want, your job as an administrator is you got to teach, and these parents, they drop off their kids to our school, and these kids spend 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day there, where it's supposed to be a safety environment. They're supposed to feel safety. So I will do as much as possible to make sure that is happening at the schools, and the schools or the administrators is just to provide the education. You know, they can't be worried about this. So yeah, as Ms. Muñoz mentioned, you know, if you're going to use Guardian, make sure that they're Guardian certified. We've had issues prior, not by his company, but from hearing from other districts and counties, that a lot of these security companies that are providing Guardian are not Guardian certified. Mm-hmm. They just say, oh no, we did take a training, but you know, it's very specific. You have to attend the local sheriff's office of where the Guardian is going to be working their training. If you're working in Miami-Dade, that Guardian's got to participate in the Guardian's certification for Miami-Dade. If it's in Broward, and so forth and so on, each county and district.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's like a certificate or something they can show you. You have to have that proof.
Absolutely. Well, the majority of the school districts are requiring that they provide the certification from their Guardian, and also it being certified with the county. Because you can also take the Guardian training in Pasco County and be working Miami-Dade, but you do have to go through a 1 week. Am I correct, Orlando? Is it a 1 week refresher?
Yeah, it's a lateral academy. It's usually about a week that they need to attend in the county they're going to be working in.
Okay, that makes sense. But I want to thank you both, because this is a monster of a mandate for school leaders, and thank goodness they have you both. I'm going to include your contact information on the bottom of this webcast so people can reach out to you. And I really recommend every school principal reach out to these two guys if they ever doubt about their plans, because they've been doing it for a long time, even before the mandates. You know, working on security. So make sure you do it right, and you defer to experts. So thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you for having us. And again, my contact information is there. You know, I take pride in what I do, and it's something that it's a calling that I hope we can provide any type of assistance to you all.
Thank you.
I agree. Also, thank you very much, Lynn, for having us. And I'm always very reachable if anyone has any questions or run anything by me. I'm always a resource to every school principal.
Yeah. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Providing Choice, a Florida Charter School Alliance podcast. The Florida Charter School Alliance is the premier support and advocacy organization for charter schools in Florida. Our mission is to increase student achievement and meet the demand for parental choice by assisting, supporting, and advocating for high-quality public charter schools. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Providing Choice. To learn more about the Alliance, visit our website at flcharteralliance.org.